Good evening to all. On behalf of Andhra Chamber of Commerce, we welcome you all to this webinar on the social impact of COVID-19 on women's health. I think for the past 2 years, we have been hearing about this COVID everywhere, and also it's so more so on the physical as well as the mental health of the women. So today we thought that we'll coinciding with this International Women's Day, we thought that this program will be of use to the women in having some suggestions on how they can cope up with this COVID. So I request our President, Dr. V.L. Indira, to please welcome the participants. Over to you, ma'am.
Okay. Well, at the outset, I'd like to wish all the participants a very happy International Women's Day.
Thank you, ma'am.
As we are celebrating International Women's Day today, it is time for us to reflect on ways and means of empowering women. Empowerment means a person develops power like social, economic, and physical power within herself. This may be power given by the family or the society. One of the best ways empowering women is recognizing her work by family and society. Financial empowerment for women is a must. Management of environment gives women systems empowerment. Men and women are like two eyes to the society. For centuries, women have been denied progress and development, and it is only through women empowerment that we can even dream of reaching the goal in the next century. Women in India are perceived to be Shakti, an embodiment of primordial feminine energy. Without management, this only lacks synergy. Happy Women's Day. Quest for the best. Good evening to all. On behalf of Andhra Chamber of Commerce, I welcome you all to this webinar on the social impact of COVID-19 on women's health. I'd like to welcome the speakers of the day, Dr. C. Swarnakumari, MD, DGO, FACS, Senior Consultant, Obstetric and Gynecologist, Apollo Hospital, Chennai, Dr. Kola Sashikala Parchuri, MD, DGO, Senior Consultant, Obstetric Gynecologist, Birthright by Rainbow Hospital, Hyderabad, Dr. Venkat Lakshmi Ala, MD, DCH, Neonatologist and Pediatrician, Rainbow Hospital, Banjara Hills, Hyderabad, and Dr. M. Nirmala Prabhavati, MBBS, DDVL, PGDMCH, MBA, ISB, and IAS, Additional District Medical and Health Officer, Hyderabad. As many of you may be aware, Andhra Chamber of Commerce is one of the leading chamber in India and has spread across 3 states and having offices in Hyderabad, Vizag, and Visakhapatnam. The chamber has 1,300 members and 25 trade product associations as its affiliated members. The chamber has 16 subcommittees: direct taxes, indirect taxes, export, import, foreign trade, startup, MSME, etc. The chamber offers certificate of origin to the exporters. Today, we are celebrating International Women's Day, which is a global day for celebrating the social, economic, cultural, and political achievements for women. The day also marks a call to action for accelerating gender parity. As you all may know, experts are learning more every day about the new coronavirus that causes COVID-19. Even if the fatality rate has been twice higher for men than for women, the COVID-19 pandemic has affected women more than men, both as frontline workers and at home. Worldwide, 70% of the health workforce is made up of women who are often frontline health workers, nurses, midwives, and community health workers. Similarly, most of health facility services staff, cleaners, laundry, caterers is made up of women. Nearly 1 million accredited social health activists, ASHAs, assigned to rural villages and small towns across India are on the front lines of the country's fight against the coronavirus. Work life has changed dramatically for healthcare providers with the high physical demand imposed by wearing the protective equipment for the entire shift, fighting against the fear of contagion and bringing home the virus to relatives, dealing with the anxiety of masks or goggles not fitting properly or involuntary dirty gloves, touching the face. Consequently, women are more likely to be exposed to the virus. Lack of excuse me, lack of adequate domestic and emotional support can have consequences on women's mental health. The risk of anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, is also much higher in women. We have with us today 4 eminent speakers on the subject who will throw light on the impact of COVID-19 and also suggest few solutions on how women can cope with this. With this, I welcome you all once again to this webinar and wish you all happy International Women's Day. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for setting the tone for the program. So now I would like to invite Dr. C. Swarna Kumari. She is an MBBS. I would like to briefly introduce about Dr. Swarna Kumari. She is an MBBS from Andhra University, and she is an MD DGO, Madras University, FACS, FICOG. She is the former president of Obstetrics and Gynecology Society of Southern India, OGSSI. She is a senior consultant since 1983 in Obstetrics and Gynecologist, Apollo Hospitals, Chennai. I now invite Dr. Swarna Kumari to please speak about the program.
Thank you. Thank you very much for a nice introduction. Is I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, okay. So greetings to all of you on International Women's Day. Respected Chairperson, Mrs. Indira Dutt, and honorable members of the Andhra Chamber of Commerce, Namaste. I am Dr. Sri Swarna Kumari, a senior gynecologist from Chennai. The topic for this webinar is the impact of COVID-19 on women's health. At the outset, I like to pay homage to all the doctors who laid off their lives, and also the nurses and all the health workers who laid off their lives for the battle of this COVID in this pandemic year. I really, as their mothers and as their sisters, I like to pay homage on this International Day of the Women. Everyone is aware of the medical consequences of COVID-19 for the past 2 years. It has touched almost all of us personally, or been our family members, or as friends. This is the second pandemic that world has seen after Spanish flu and in 1918. COVID-19 is more than an acute illness. We're also learning about its effect on the society and economy as a whole. It is a global crisis. As Ratan Tata very rightly said, this is the year of survival and not the business. According to the United Nations survey, it revealed 80% higher death rate in men when compared to the women. Of course, it may not be correct in all the states, but in general, that is what the United Nations has given by the survey. This is related to the associated comorbidities in men like old age, obesity, medical illness like diabetes, cardiac conditions, chronic respiratory illness, increased stress, and also alcohol, and not the last but the least is smoking. Though the death rate is more in men, but it produced devastating effects on the women's life and also on the children. About, as our president pointed out, about 70% of the frontline workers in medical field, reflecting mainly the huge impact on nurses and on the paramedical workers and doctors. About 734 doctors lost their lives across the country during this pandemic, according to the Indian Medical Council. At the family level, women faced more evils due to the loss of jobs, domestic abuse, and children lost their education, looking after the husband and children all the 24 hours without any financial support. Hence, they suffered in silence, which led them to the depression and psychiatric. So when I was going through some of the articles, it was a surprise for me to know that countries like France, the government booked about 2,700 hotel rooms to shelter to these abused women during the night. It was a real surprise for me, so much, though it may not be possible in our country, but they have done it in the advanced countries. This COVID-19 virus started in China. This is the story of the virus. Almost everybody knows about it. In December 2019, hence it is called COVID-19. Since it is a novel virus, not knowing the origin, not knowing the symptoms, not knowing the treatment, not knowing the transmission, not knowing the prevention. These are all, we are in complete darkness about this virus because it is a new virus. None of the scientists in the world knows about this virus. So scientists all over the world started research work and found out some solutions. Hence, we are able to prevent it, at least by its spread, by using universal precautions. One, by hand washing and use of the mask and maintaining the distance and treatment wise. And these are some of the precautions which all over the world they have observed it. And regarding the treatment part, at the beginning, they were only giving supportive therapy and nothing else. And coming to the prevention, rapid research work was done in short period of time all over the world. That is by January 2021. Then they came out with a vaccine. It's a great thing. We must salute the scientists across the world for creating such a world record in bringing out the vaccine, which saved many lives in the as we have seen in the second and third wave of the COVID. More than 200 countries were affected with this virus around the world. WHO declared it as a pandemic in January 2020. No other subject in the medical history so far published as many papers as 24,800 papers on the subject of COVID alone. And about 1,000 papers have been published so far from India. And here I like to mention a word about the telemedicine, which played a major role in this pandemic. And regarding the people who are affected by COVID, though they are miles away from the medical facilities, they were able to connect themselves to the telemedicine and getting the proper advice and proper guidance. Though the symptoms are mild, they are able to cure themselves. It is a great thing. This technology improvement has reached so many lives which are miles and miles away from the medical facilities. As our Abdul Kalam once said, advance in the technology is for the benefit for the healthcare.
Yes, ma'am.
So we'd like to say a few words. We have with us another 3 distinguished speakers. Dr. Sasikala will be speaking on COVID on pregnancy and childbirth, a period of extreme anxiety for expecting mothers and also for the whole family. And Dr. Venkat Lakshmi will continue the discussion on COVID in the newborn, toddlers, teenage, and while stressing on the importance of vaccination. Dr. Nirmala will share her valuable experience in managing the COVID patient in government hospital setup and how the government's response in dealing with this crisis. She was posted with the COVID treatment of the COVID patients for at least for more than 6 years to 1 month. She was managing that ward. I conclude, as we have taught by our elders, the pandemic is proved its not only affected women's health and also the wealth. I'd like to thank the Chamber of Commerce for their invitation and organizing this webinar.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Now Ms. Shashikala has come. So can we go ahead with Ms. Shashikala, ma'am?
Yeah,
Good evening, Andi Shashikal Garu. How are you?
but she has come on time, not bad.
You are on mute, ma'am. Shashikala, ma'am.
Unmute, ma'am.
You have to
Shashi,
unmute.
ma'am. Shashi, ma'am, unmute, ma'am.
Unmute చేయాలి. She has to unmute.
I would like to briefly introduce Mr. Dr. Shashikala before we go ahead with our presentation. Dr. Kola Shashikala is a consultant gynecologist and obstetrician. She is working in Birthright by Rainbow Hospital, Banjara Hills, and Vivekananda Hospital, Begumpet. She has some of the positions held by her are past Joint Secretary, Secretary, Vice President of OGSH, and past Secretary, Vice President, President, and ISO PARB, the Hyderabad chapter. She was past South Zone Coordinator for ISO PARB, presently the Vice President of ISO PARB. Some of her field of interest are endoscopic surgery, vaginal surgery, high-risk obstetrics. She was trained in robotic surgery at Atlanta, USA in 2011. She has contributed chapters for postgraduate textbooks in obstetrics and gynecology. Over to you, Dr. Shashikala.
Good evening, Andy. I'm very happy to be a part of this group and this program today. And yeah, I will also talk little bit about the effect of COVID on women in pregnancy and what we faced, our own experience. But basically, I feel COVID-19 has thrown open a lot of challenges, especially for the women, and it has made us think, look back on our day-to-day activities and see how we have to look at our own health and how we have to manage it. So before I go into that, I will just tell you all about what we did at Rainbow Hospital. We had almost more than 100 deliveries of patients with COVID, and most of them were also referred from outside. Not only our booked cases, unbooked cases also had come, and also from another hospital, Fernandez Hospital, people also sent their patients, COVID patients to us, because we were having a dedicated COVID ward where we could keep the patients there and manage them. So in the first wave, we know that we had 3 COVID waves. In the first wave, we had 58 patients, and out of which 57 of them had mild disease. One patient had moderate disease, and she was given, in those days, we were giving remdesivir. She was given remdesivir and she recovered. So that was the experience in the first wave. Second wave, we had about 41 patients. That was the one which really hit us hard. Second, Delta variant really was bad, where we didn't expect to hit. Most of us thought second wave would be milder than the first, but we had a morbid situation in the second wave. And out of these 41, about 6 of them were having their severe problem, and they were in the hospital for a number of days. And all of them are referred cases from outside. Came late. Actually, 2 patients came very late, and we lost them. One was post-abortion and was after delivery. And one patient, actually at 24 weeks, she came, and then she was pulling on, dragging and not improving. So a C-section was done, and a 640 grammer was delivered. And luckily, both the mother and child both have done well, and they went home after, she was with the hospital for more than 3 weeks, but she recovered totally, and the baby also went home with her, a preterm 24-weeker. And in the third wave, actually, it was much, the Omicron wave was very light. Almost 75% of our patients turned positive, and most of them were almost asymptomatic. They were at home, and 10 of them came and delivered, and none of them had any problem. So this is what we faced. More than over 100 deliveries were conducted in our hospital, COVID patients. I had operated myself, COVID positive patients, cesarean 4 cases, I operated myself. So this is what we faced. And coming to what it has, the implication of this COVID and how it has impacted our lives, and how the women have to face, because third wave is over. Now we are saying that there could be a 4th wave in June. We don't know whether it is going to be even milder, or some mutation will occur and something bad can happen. And one more thing we need to remember is, with COVID, it's not going to end with this. There could be many more epidemics, pandemics, which can happen in future, because the world has become a village. So a person who has a virus in one corner of the world, it can spread shortly, like how we have seen in case of COVID. So how does COVID affect? How did it affect? What we have understood in the last 2 years of COVID is, the basic thing is the inherent health of the person, of the woman. As Dr. Swarnakumari Madam said, mostly it has affected men, less of women. Maybe because most women don't go out that much. That was in the quite a few more percentage of women don't move out as much as the men. But basically, women appear to be the stronger gender if we look at this COVID. So the inherent health is not only the structure and function. So if you see, it's like a building. So the building, the facade is what we are externally, what we see. We may present a beautiful picture from the outside, but inside we may have a lot of problems, inherent health problems of the structure as well as function. So you could be a diabetic, you could be a hypertensive, or you can have fatty liver, or many things. So these things, unless we know, a person who has a poor structure is the one, when we put in more weight or what pressure on that structure, it can collapse. Similarly, a person whose health is not good, these are the people who did not do well with COVID, because our body has to react to a situation, and when we react, how we react, that is one thing. Second is it has brought into fore our balance in life, how we balance things in life, how we face it. So people who are more scared, who were scared of COVID, who were not going out, who never went out, these were the ones, some of them, when they were exposed to COVID, they had a bad outcome. That is because balance is something which nature has provided us, the yin and yang, we say. So in our body, we have both a balance of, things which will protect the body, things will destroy the body. Both are there. If you are talking about, say, pregnancy itself. So a woman is pregnant. For 9 months, the uterus is carrying the baby, allowing it to grow. The cervix is holding the pregnancy, not allowing it to deliver. So that is the protective phase. The same uterus, when it is term or when it is time to deliver, the same uterus will start contracting, the cervix will start opening. So that is, there are certain chemicals in our body which can protect the baby from coming out, and at the right time, it can also push the baby out. Or a pregnant woman, supposing she has severe infection, like severe COVID infection she had, then the body feels it is better to sacrifice the baby to take care of the mother. So mother can go into labor and she can push the baby out. So like that, if a woman is scared also, she will produce things which are negative for the body. A woman who is confident, who is healthy, eating everything, doing right, she may come out successful in facing the infection. So the third thing we need to know is how we face the situation and how our body reacts to different situations. So our relationship to nature, this is also something which is very, very important, which we have realized in this COVID time. We know it before, but we realize how important it is. So whatever we do, we have to go along with nature. You cannot go against the nature. So if you are, there is an infection, your body is inherently, it has got inherent immunity. You can fight it. But if you go against nature, that immune response will come down. So a person who is doing all night outs, not sleeping in the night, or eating the wrong kind of food, not exercising, physical activity, rest, meditation, you are stressed out, all these things, you go against nature. That's when your body does not cooperate with you. So you will have the negative outcome. And the next thing is about, you have seen how people have given, giving and sharing. So this giving and sharing, you help people. A woman in the house is she's the fulcrum. She is the pivot in the family, takes care of the children, the husband, the elders, the relatives, family. So the first priority of the woman is to take care of her immediate family. But it should not end here. You also help people around you, people, your servants, people who are working for you. If you are in an organization, all those who are working for you. So all these things help by releasing happy hormones. So when you exercise, you release happy hormones, the endorphins. When you help someone, you get the boost, the oxytocin and the serotonin. These are all feel-good hormones. And these are the hormones which also push the body system into the positive mode. So you face, your immune response is better. So you will fight all these pandemics, the virus, bacteria, whatever. You see patients, people who are very happy, who are helpful, who are fit, who are exercising, eating right, they are in harmony with nature. These are the people who do well. So this is another very important thing. And at all age groups. So our health, maintaining our health should be not in a short period. From the time of birth, or now we call about preconceptional, having a good egg, having a good pregnancy, in utero environment should be good, and after delivery, how you manage from childhood. Obesity, that is a very, very important negative point for COVID. a person who is obese does badly because all the hormones are all not in a balance. So you have to take care of your family's health, your own health from the menopause, post-menopause, elderly people, even 90-year-old women had COVID. Their basic health was good. They were positive in approach, and so we cannot tell which patient is going to do bad. So I think these are many more we need to spell on. So I don't think I'll take any more time. So I wanted to tell you, and if you have any questions, you can always ask me. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, ma'am. It was a very precise and very, very useful information, ma'am. Thank you. And now we move on to the next speaker, Dr. Venkat Lakshmi Allah. She is an MD, DCH, CMC Vellore. She has fellowship in neonatology, Australia and Washington University, St. Louis, USA. Currently neonatologist and pediatrician at Rainbow Children's Hospital, Banjara Hills, Hyderabad. Over to you, ma'am.
Good evening, everybody. Greetings to all the eminent members of this panel and audience and participants. My topic today is the effect of COVID on the mother and the child, and what happened in the past 2 years and how it affected the whole family and the society. As you all know, it's 2 years now since the COVID has set in, but the WHO has declared it as a pandemic. And since then, a lot of human beings underwent a lot of trials and tribulations, lots of ups and downs in everybody's life. Everybody has been affected. It was a communist. The virus is a real communist. It is
Not very clear.
it's affected the rich, the poor, the high, the low, everybody, man, woman, child, everything. So it had no bars, no caste, no creed. A lot of families are affected, the whole nations are affected, the whole economy is affected. So in all these things, the whole family is affected. The main pivotal role in the family is by the woman of the family. She is the one who takes care of, she had to don multiple roles in this trying times as a mother, as a woman of the house, as a dai of the house, or she had to be the servant, she had to be everything basically, because they have all the services, everything, all the help, everything was. And she wanted on top of it, has to also work from home for some of them. So actually, from the woman's point of view, the most important role that she had to don during this COVID pandemic was that of a mother. And this being a new virus, nobody knew what was happening. There were a lot of rumors around, a lot of WhatsApp doctors and a lot of WhatsApp medicine that went around. And a lot of people were really terrified about this virus. Mothers didn't let the children go out, they didn't let her to meet anybody in the neighborhood, they didn't let them get out of the house. So they were worried, like, is my child going to get the virus? So how do I prevent it? If the child gets it, how sick is it going to be? Is it going to live or is it going to die? Is it going to go to the ICU? What medicines need to be taken? Will it survive? What is the outcome of this virus? How long will it last? Nothing was known about it. Especially the first wave was very bad. People were really very, very scared. As you all know, there were 3 waves for this COVID virus. The first virus at the wave was not too bad. The second wave, as Dr. Seshikala has already pointed out, was a very bad wave, where the Delta virus played havoc with not only the adults, but as the children as well. The first was not many children were affected, and the children that were admitted into ICUs and were very less. Most of them were as an outpatient treatment we have done, and then just a simple cough cold medications and things like that, we were able to send them home. The second wave is the one which children were badly affected along with the children. And but fortunately, the mortality of these children was less than about 1 to 2%. Admission rates are only about 1 to 2%. The hospital admissions also 1 to 2% compared to that of the adults. Basically, the innate immune system that is there in the baby has protected the child from this virus, because the child is already used to so many viruses around, unlike the adult. And the antibody response is muted compared to that of the adult. So the innate system has protected the child from this deadly virus. The third is what happens, what we're the tail end of now. And it's more like a flu, fortunately, not many children were affected. And the symptoms are very simple, like all the mothers would have seen, like a bit of cough, cold, and diarrhea, and loose motions, and fever, cough, and cold, and severe illness is very few. In our hospital itself, we had, also being a tertiary hospital, we had COVID patients directly, and from newborn themselves to up to 18 years we have treated. And of course, we have treated even the mothers with COVID, and we had dedicated COVID ward for COVID hospital for this pandemic, throughout this pandemic. And then we have treated as low as Shishwal has mentioned, extreme preterm babies, 26, 27 weekers. As low birth weight as 500 to 600 grams with 100% results. They really had a bad complications, like they had very bad pulmonary hypertension. The respiratory system was involved, and they need to be ventilated for a long time. But fortunately, we have not lost a single baby in an ICU to this COVID virus, which is a very thankful thing. And what is next about this COVID virus? The parents were asking about is what is this myth that parents worry about? This is something that people have seen around the world. After once the child gets a COVID infection, after 4 to 6 weeks of the infection, the children would come back with severe high temperatures, and they would have all systems.
I'm sorry for the interruption, ma'am. Some of the people have said that the voice is not clear. Sorry, ma'am.
Is it better now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah. What the second way is what people have noticed is a very new disease called MISC, MISC, which is a multisystemic inflammatory syndrome, where all the systems in the body are inflamed. And this happened about 4 to 6 weeks after the COVID infection. This is quite a scary situation where some children have died abroad with this condition when it was really not recognized early. And once we got to know about it, fortunately, they were able to treat appropriately, and a lot of children did come out of this. We lost only one patient with MISC in 2 hours of this, 2 years of this pandemic. The side effects of this after the MISC is very minimal. We have followed them up for the next 6 months, and the ones who even had their hearts involved and all, they do develop a thing called Kawasaki syndrome, which we treated with IV immunoglobulins, the appropriate medication. They did recover completely well. So we did follow up over the past 6 months. All the babies were admitted with a lot of complications with the COVID virus in the PICU, all the multi-system. Some people are even on ECMO and dialysis and multi-organ dysfunctions, and all the most of them come out. We would lose only one patient, that too, a child. I think he had leukemia prior to the onset. So the COVID has been kind to us for the past 3 years, for the children, I should say. Though the parents, a lot of parental worry because nobody knew what was happening. There's a lot of advice, misinformation going around. And now we are in the third wave. We don't know whether we're going to have a fourth wave or not. The WHO has said that the acute phase of the COVID pandemic will end by mid-June in a developed country, and then the developing country might take till the end of the year. So by then the virus might even mutate. We won't know whether we have a fourth wave or not. So we just have to be ready for it and on a lookout for it, let not the guard down. What are the comorbidities and what are the collateral damage that happened because of this COVID vaccine, the COVID illness for the past 2 years is what is very important for the mother and the child is what exactly happened to the children. How did the mothers neglect certain aspects of the children's growth and things like that. For example, the first one was the vaccination, then which is badly affected because of the COVID pandemic. Children were not allowed outside. They could not go out to play, did not go to hospitals for vaccination because of the fear of getting exposed to the virus. So a lot of vaccinations which are really required in childhood time were neglected, and a lot of increase in the infectious diseases have gone up, like measles and things like that. And the second one is there were a lot of dosages going on with the mothers being high doses of vitamin Ds and multivitamins and things like that. That itself caused a lot of problems with the vitamin D toxicity. and a lot of the renal, a lot of calcium inside the kidneys and things like that. So a lot of mega doses of medications were being given to children just to prevent the COVID virus. And what other collateral damage that happened is that the emotional issues. What are the emotional issues that the children went through during this? You see that when you talk to the mother, they say the children come to the hospital earlier, they used to come smiling and sit next to you and play with you. Now the minute they come to a crowded place, they start crying, and they have the social behavior is affected. They're scared of crowds, and they're so used to social isolation, and they don't interact with others, and they have no contact with any human being other than their parents, some of them. And so much so that they, what is called as diseases like problems like speech delay, and they were not coming to the doctor. So we could not really assess the physical growth, the mental growth, or the vaccination. Normally what we do for 2 years, what we monitor their growth, the development, any minor problems that might develop, any of the developmental delays, all these things could not be assessed properly during this pandemic. A lot of nutritional problems during this pandemic, like people were eating all junk sitting at home, and then kids had no exercise at all, and a lot of nutritional imbalances also happened. The other one is the most important of this is there's a thing called what is called as a virtual autism that has happened because of this COVID virus. Both the parents are working, they both are on the laptop or at home, and the child is at home, the childcare centers are all closed. So they were just given another laptop to play on with, and the child was on the blue screen for such a long time. So this thing called virtual autism is what is very shocking. And if you see the footfalls of autistic children into outpatient is very high. And you see that those children don't look at you, they live in a world of their own, they don't communicate with you, they don't say hi, they don't say bye, the eye contact is not there, they live in a world of their own. And the incidence of this virtual autism is very high in the past, we have seen the past 6 months, and this is reported all over the world. Actually, blue screen viewing till up to 2 to 3 years is completely unacceptable and not advised for any children. And they can listen to the music, listen to the songs, listen to things like that. But watching the screen is really a big no for a tab or an iPhone or a TV. So that's one thing which is what we have seen during this pandemic in children. Coming to the vaccination part, there's a lot of questions as to how safe is this vaccination for the children. And in India, the vaccinations is only advisable only after 15. Permission is given only after 15 years of age. But abroad and more than 5 years and above, the vaccinations are being done, and it's a pretty safe vaccine. And what we are being given is a very safe vaccine with very minimal side effects, like a bit of pain at the site of the injection, a little bit of temperature, and a bit of discomfort. There are a lot of myths about the vaccine causing COVID infection as such, vaccine causing heart problems, was vaccine causing infertility, was it causing menstruation problems. There's so many queries regarding this vaccine, which are all not true at all. They have been tested and tried all sorts of vaccination, both Indian and abroad, are pretty safe to take during this to prevent the further spread of the COVID virus. And the next thing that we have seen is next question that parents, I'm sure, would like to know is COVID appropriate behavior still recommended in children? That is that you isolate the child, you put a mask on the child, you completely washing their hands, you're putting sanitizer all the time. And is COVID appropriate behavior still recommended? To a certain extent it is, because we don't know when the next virus is going to mutate. So we should not let a guard down, but doesn't mean that we should not let the children go out and play, let the children go out to school and things like that. We should have a guarded approach, probably continue to wear masks. Children should go to school. Any children who should not be allowed to school, stayed at home and then tested, and then if tested negative can be sent to school, back to school. And the children, but surrounded a lot of teachers and helpers in our school, all those people should make sure should be vaccinated properly, so that the children are not exposed to people who are COVID positive, because less than 15 years we are not vaccinating them. So they are the population, vulnerable population, which can still get COVID virus infection. And next thing is make sure that they all take a healthy diet and not eat junk food, and drink plenty of fruits and vegetables, and physical activity. Physical activity is what is most important to let go of all these. The vitamin D deficiency also has become very high during what we have seen in this pandemic because of There's no play at all in the sunlight. And then so many children do come back with us saying a lot of body aches, pains, and big signs of vitamin D deficiency that we are seeing. That also I think that we see is obesity. Children have grown within the past 1 year, grown by 10 kilos weight. Normally they grow only by 2 kilos. Now we have seen children gaining as high as 10 kilos weight in the past 1 year and morbidly obese and no physical activity at all. They're all couch potatoes, sitting and just watching TV all the time and not going out, no playing, nothing. So which is very, very unfortunate for the children in a growing year when they're supposed to go out in the sunshine and play. This is unfortunate. COVID has caused all this havoc in their lives. And the WHO recommends that you take, well, the adult takes about half an hour of vaccination, exercise a day, and the child should at least have 1 hour of exercise per day. And stay healthy, stay calm, and just the anxiety for COVID virus should not be there much because the virus as such is being pretty kind to the children, but one never knows how it would mutate. So stay safe and stay calm. Okay, thank you for the opportunity.
Vijayalakshmi?
Yeah, thank you very much, ma'am. Sorry, I was on mute, ma'am. Sorry. Thank you. It was an excellent presentation on how what is the impact on the kids. Definitely, it will be useful for all the mothers to take care how in future. So now we'll move on to the next session by Dr. Nirmala Prabhavati. She is the additional district medical and health officer, and she is her professional experiences. She's working as a civil surgeon specialist, district leprosy officer, and nodal officer of district AIDS prevention and control unit since 2017 till date. She has participated in many conferences nationally and internationally on AIDS and the presentations and publications. She has co-authored a scientific research paper on mid-trimester abortion by intra-amniotic infusion of normal saline published in a FOGSI journal with Dr. C. Swarnakumari, MDDGO, Apollo Hospital, Chennai. And she is an external guide for postgraduate thesis on HIV transmission on intravenous drug users and needle sick injuries. And she is a member, memberships and affiliations are life member of IMA, IADVL, Indian AIDS Society and International AIDS Society, life member IAL and State Council member TSIAL. She is a focus group member of Public Health and Operational Research IAL. Over to you, ma'am. Ma'am, you are on mute.
Am I audible now, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
So in the first instance, let me profusely thank the organizers, ma'am, for having this on very thoughtfully on this day, International Women's Day, where being the theme is gender equality today for a sustainable tomorrow. Also, as Madam has introduced that I have worked as a COVID care center nodal officer for the Nature Cure as well as Government Ayurveda Medical College. So both are the biggest COVID care centers in Hyderabad. We have handled almost 6,000 cases per month. These are only COVID care centers. They are not treatment centers. And so only the containment measures and the COVID protocols are followed with no mortality. And only one case, I had been the nodal officer for almost 2 years, and we have deferred only one case in these 2 years also. And so there was no mortality as well as morbidity also. And there was no instance where we could refer the case to Gandhi also. So ma'am, with this, as we have already been discussing that COVID has been a wake-up call and for the humanity, and it has created unprecedented emergencies all over the world, affecting health, wealth, and social well-being. And it has got different implications for men as well as women. This pandemic has had its own impact. It will also have its impact in future also. The thing is that the marginalized section like women and children are more affected, particularly female children. Particularly in developing countries where the access to the healthcare facilities is not there, where the income levels are low, where the infrastructures are not well developed or underdeveloped. So across every sphere from health to economy, security to social protection, the impact of COVID-19, they are exacerbated for women and girls, just because they're female. That means by virtue of their sex. If we come to workforce, as Indra Madam already said, 70% of the health workforce is the female, women. Women occupy 70% of the healthcare workforce. And naturally, they are more prone for infection. And this is more so in developing countries where the infrastructures, as I have said, they're inadequate and they're underdeveloped. Women are not, they not only constitute 70% of the workforce, and they usually occupy unpaid work or lowly paid work. And the gender gap is so much that they are not given the offs, layoffs also. It's so much of layoffs. And the compounding burdens we can think of is harassment at the workplaces and harassment at the house, and the domestic violence and exploitation and abuse at the workplaces, and n number of increased instances of violence. So as we have seen, the gender-based violence is more during pandemics. Particularly in COVID, we have seen that the women and girls are more, they are subjected to violence. And violence we can't expect only on the battlefields, it is at homes also. And the compounding factors here are the crowded homes, the low income, the substance abuse by the husbands, and limited access to the services, and reduced peer support, and more so the containment of the travel, like the measures to restrict the movement, and the economic as well as the social stresses. These are the reasons why they were more subjected for violence. And coming to the ILO statements, the International Labour Organization says that the partial lockdown has impacted the lives so much so that 81% of the world's workforce was like hampered, like it affected 81% of the world's workforce. So that means to say 2.7 billion workers almost. So what ILO says is that 71.7% of the jobs are informal works. All these informal works are usually occupied by female women. So these informal works, they're paid less, and there is no social security, and there is the gender difference is so much, even the income is very lowly, they're lowly paid. So the pandemic has made the women depend more financially on men. And across the globe, as we see, women, they earn less, they save less, and they have very insecure jobs and mostly informal sector jobs, and they have less access to social protection also. So when we come to this economic and productive life as such, this is disproportionately affected when we compare women and with the men. So women on the whole, apart from working at places like in the workplaces, at workplaces, they do take care of the course of the house also, and the greater demands are on them than on their male counterpart. Even the children who are being withdrawn from the schools, they are put on course of the house, though, and they're forced to be. And it is not the question of simply putting them on the work at home. Once they are withdrawn from the schools, it is noted that in most of the crises also, once the female children are withdrawn from the schools and they never go back to the school, that is the situation. So this being the situation, it shows that the sustained developmental goals which we talk about will be hampered or will be delayed, and the achievement that has already been noted till 2015, say 2015, that will again be hampered, and we can say the reverse movement. So at least this year, where the gender equality and beat the bias is the theme, we can expect some social reforms and policies by the government in this aspect. So to think out of the box, this pandemic has given us a chance to closely recognize the gender bias, gender inequality, and the great need to give more importance to the women and to their jobs, like more well-paid jobs. They are to be given employment, but the employment should be a sustainable employment with good pay. And there is a need to think of ways to some innovative measures. And with other unheard situations like the women who are forced to be at home, they are more exploited by the men who are also locked down because of this home quarantine, and they are more subjected to domestic violence. And because of these travel restrictions, at home quarantine, as well as a school daycare, as well as schools closure, and increased risk factors for the elderly who are at home. And because we have seen, like, because I take care of AIDS and leprosy also. So in those days, the ART centers, though they were functioning, the people were not able to come because of the restriction on the movement. So we have delivered the drugs to their centers, actually to their home, at their homes. So at least 2 to 3 months of medicines we have delivered at a time. And even with the same case with the leprosy also. So, and to conclude that the spread of the COVID infection, it doesn't represent only a public health issue, and it is more of a social and economical crisis also. So the spread of the virus has interrupted the international supply chain management and forcing the employees to be curtailed, and even most of the industries have curtailed their workforce, and then there were sustainable job losses followed because of this. So the longer term effects of this COVID impact or the lockdown or the job loss cannot be ascertained at this moment, because it all depends on the amount of the the period of lockdown, as well as the amount of the measures that the government take into consideration, like what are the government imposes, what the government imposes. So it is government has taken many measures apart from the measures taken for the COVID containment by supplying the personal protection equipments and medicines, general medicines, which have been used for general health. Because in the COVID care center, we have not used any other medication. Even remdesivir was also not used. We were totally giving only the doxycycline, azithromycin, and if at all there is fever, paracetamol, and this is only symptomatic treatment was given there. And so the government should consider extending this. And then we have supplied even oxygen concentrate in the second wave when there was much impact, because the impact in the first COVID, it was not much, like in the sense there was no morbidity or mortality in our centers. But in second wave, we have seen many number of cases being referred to the private sectors. So, and there was a huge demand for oxygen concentrators. So even so much of humanitarian work was done by so many people, and we have received so many donations for oxygen concentrators, and they have been supplied, and they have been placed even at the COVID care centers also, though there was no requirement there as such. And we have supplied to all the government area hospitals as well as the tertiary care centers. So to say that with this, I can say that to achieve this sustained developmental goals, the government has to take some policies wherein the women force has to be given not only the job, they have to be given a shareholder, they have to be made shareholders in the policy decision making also, so that they can apply some pressure, they can motivate the government or influence the government to change the policies, or the policies which have been implemented already to set in force properly, ma'am. And with this, I really thank ma'am for this opportunity. And we have received so many questions, ma'am. If there is time, we can take some questions on immunity and other things.
Yeah, sure.
So,
Thank you very much, ma'am. I request the participants to please ask questions if there are any. You can unmute and then please ask. Any questions?
If one has contracted COVID, how long should they wait before they get pregnant?
Ma'am, you got the question?
Yeah, most women are worried actually after the second wave the second wave from April of 2021, we had the second wave. So a lot of women have postponed their pregnancies, thinking, that, and they were also busy taking care of those who were sick in their families, I suppose. But there is no need to postpone anything for the sake of COVID. So COVID-19 is like any other virus infection. And in pregnancy, as long as your health is good, and pregnancy only happens when you have a good health generally. So we don't ask our patients to postpone their pregnancy, but to take care, to avoid public places, wear strict mask, wearing the mask, washing hands, all the social distancing, everything follow and go ahead with the pregnancy. Because now first wave over, second wave, third wave, there are women who get married at 35 and then till 37 they don't want children, and now with COVID if they want to postpone they will miss the bus, their ovarian reserve will start coming down, so their chance of pregnancy also will come down. So never postpone for the sake of COVID.
Now, my question was, after contracting COVID, when can they get pregnant?
Yeah,
They can immediately. It's like any virus infection. Once the infection is gone, unless they have developed some post-COVID complications. Post-COVID, supposing they have severe lung problem, their breathing difficulties, and if their interleukins have gone up, they were given steroids, things like that. But most of the women who have not had any such problems, they can go ahead and plan straight away. There's no need to postpone.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
And
Any other
there are
questions?
there are some questions, ma'am, which have been posed actually. Can I read them out, ma'am?
Yeah, but I didn't get any.
How long does the COVID-19 immunity last? So that is the question they ask. So we can't definitely say like how long it lasts, because once the immune system responds to any infection, we can't clearly say, because the immunity depends on many factors. The T cells and the B cells, that's B cell memory, T cell memory, and the natural infection that the patient get, and the immunity produced by the vaccines. So we can't definitely say how long it lasts, but usually they say 6 to 9 months. And there's one more question, ma'am. How long the antibodies last in the body?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. So antibodies for several months, usually like 5 to 9 months, they say. And if the infection is mild to moderate, the antibody production is not that much. If the infection is severe, the antibody production, not the production, as well as the lasting of the antibodies will be more, longer period. And one more question, they say that how does the natural immunity compare with the vaccine-induced immunity? So various studies have shown actually that the T cell and B cell memory play a role in this. But the immune system, as we have already discussed, it has got its own ways to react. But the immune response after vaccination is much more homogeneous. Whereas if it is after natural infection, it depends upon the body's nature, like the person, individual. But if it is vaccine induced, it is more homogeneous. That much we can say. And does vaccine make a difference to those who have already had COVID-19? That's one more question. So the thing is that yes, the immunity sharpens when there is already existing infection or they had a previous infection, past infection. So the immunity usually is sharpened. And so they will not be having more of serious ailments or hospitalization or mortality kind of thing. So they'll be.
I'd like to add some more.
Say that too. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
If
They can be exempted. Like we can't expect more severe nature of the disease in them. So
you take
anything more,
Covaxin,
ma'am?
sorry, go ahead. If you take Covaxin, can you take a booster of Covishield?
Yes, ma'am. It is written in the, as a public health personnel, we are not promoting that, ma'am, actually. We are saying the same vaccine to be repeated. But
Okay.
as the literature says, the antibody levels or the immunity status will be more if you take a different vaccine. But in
Okay,
India, as a public health person, we are not promoting that.
okay.
I like to have some questions on pregnancy.
Yeah.
If you allow me, I'd like to have some questions which I received.
Oh, okay.
Are pregnant women more susceptible to infection when compared to the general public? It is because there are so many physiological changes that takes place during pregnancy, and also their immunity is less during pregnancy. They are more susceptible for COVID infection. Are pregnant women with COVID-19 are increased risk for adverse pregnancy outcome? See how the pregnancy is going to be. Are they going to abort? Are they going to premature delivery? Are there any congenital anomalies? Or outcome of the patient may be, outcome of the pregnancy may be different? No, there have not been proved cases of abortion or anomalies or anything else during COVID pandemic. Only slight increase of premature delivery is the commonest that we have to combat. Can pregnant women with the COVID-19 pass the virus to the fetus or newborn? No, there is no evidence to show that there is no vertical transmission of this one from the COVID virus to the baby. There is not been proved the evidence for that. Are there pregnant healthcare personnel or at increased risk? Those who are taking care about the COVID patients, are they increased risk when they are taking care of the COVID positive? No, when they take all the precautions, including the PPF and other things, they are not exposed to any extra risk. Is COVID-19 vaccines are recommended while pregnant or breastfeeding? Yes, they are recommended. They are recommended. They are provided. You have to take precautions, having a mask and all when you are feeding the baby, but there is no contraindication unless the mother has severe symptoms like a cough, cold, fever, and other things. We have to prevent that. Otherwise, breastfeeding mothers can breastfeed the patients, and also COVID vaccines are recommended while pregnant or breastfeeding patients. There is no contraindication at all. As somebody said in the beginning, Asha, when they suppose if they're taken a COVID vaccine and after a week, if they come to know if they're pregnant, they can continue the pregnancy. So far, there are no adverse effects on any pregnancy, proved evidence. So they can continue pregnancy. They need not go for any termination of pregnancy at all.
Thank you.
Another thing, taking a COVID vaccines, they have to take 2 doses of vaccine at any stage of pregnancy, even in the 9th month also. There is no contraindication at all.
Thank you.
There is a question from US, ma'am. Somebody is asking, wearing continuous mask, is it
Affects a breathing
affect
problem.
breath problem? Yeah. Yeah, yes, ma'am. Like it is noticed, actually, it is noticed that we do see that, they feel more breathless if they are wearing, because in the first wave, they were so panicky, they were wearing 2, 3 also. So naturally, it will obstruct the breath.
Oh,
You breathe in the carbon dioxide which you breathe out. So if you wear it for a long time, then you may feel the effect of it. So these N95 masks are there with that respirator. Those who feel difficulty in breathing or some asthmatics and all, they can wear those masks. But when we wear a mask with that respirator there, then they can transmit it to others. So that's why it is not safe. But if they will not get it, but if they are having COVID, they can transmit to the others.
ma'am, still there are the mindsets of the people of pregnant women that whether they can take the vaccination or not. What is your say on that, ma'am?
They should take the vaccination. Basically, as Dr. Nirmala said, vaccine is more protective than getting the infection. So take the vaccine, you get better antibody response. And we are giving so many vaccines in pregnancy. We are taking tetanus toxoid, tetanus acellular pertussis, and diphtheria vaccine are being given. Flu vaccine we are giving. So this is another vaccine in the midst of pandemic. Instead of getting the disease, you are protecting yourself from getting the disease. So you have to understand that vaccine is doing what a infection would do in a better way. The immune response is even better, and it will protect the pregnant woman as well as the in utero fetus. So you should be taking the vaccine.
The one point about
One question that has come here is after contract. Sorry, ma'am. Sorry, somebody was saying.
Yes, ma'am. As madam said, Shashi ma'am said, ultimately the best defense is vaccine only, ma'am.
Okay.
In fact, it has to be on a global level campaign, that global vaccination campaign should be there,
Hmm.
so that the containment of the disease will be moved.
Okay.
Dr. Venkat Lakshmi, would you like to say anything about the vertical transmission, the mother to child transmission? Have there been any reports?
There are no actually distinct reports, but we have seen actually one 27-weeker whose mother, this is only anecdotal report, nothing like this thing. The child did have COVID, though she was not really exposed to anything. Like she did cesarean section brought here, and the child had COVID. So we don't know. There were 1 or 2 cases like that been reported actually. Yeah.
One more
And we
point.
have in the ICU. Yeah. 27-weeker who went well home, of course. 600 gram, mother had COVID, immediately brought here to the ICU. The child did develop COVID. Had COVID.
There is one more question, ma'am. After contracting COVID, how long do we have to wait to take the booster shot?
Even if the booster dose has to be given during pregnancy, they can take it. There is no contraindication for that. If they are due to take booster dose when they are pregnant, it is allowed.
No, when they get COVID, so should they postpone it? So
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. 1 month, ma'am.
Yeah.
Not only the COVID, yes, ma'am. COVID, not only the COVID infection, even if they are taking any other vaccines also, it should be postponed minimum of 1 month, ma'am.
Or to
No,
get
I
the
think
booster?
our
Not all.
flu and the COVID vaccine can be taken together. But
Yes,
most
that can be taken
patients
together.
are worried, so we tell
Yes,
them,
ma'am.
okay, give a gap of 2 weeks, but they
Yes,
can be
ma'am.
taken together, no problem.
Yes, that can be together. But after COVID infection, we ask the patients to wait for 1 month, ma'am.
1 month.
Okay. Yeah. Ma'am, what's your take on precautionary steps that the women can take for the 4th wave, to face the 4th wave? Because people were saying that there is a 4th wave in June. So what is your suggestion? Whether any precautionary steps that the women should take?
Yeah. Yes. One point.
Same precautions. Yeah.
Can I?
Yes, ma'am.
One point I wanted to press on that is during pregnancy, they should not interrupt their antenatal checkups. They should go for regular checkups, because we have lost 1 or 2 babies because they say COVID positive, we cannot come out, and they have not had their ultrasounds in a particular time when they are needed. They are land up with the loss of the babies. So what I advise is not to interrupt your antenatal checkups at any cost. That is one thing which makes them go for a high risk. They may end up with some complications if they interrupt their routine antenatal checkups because of the COVID. That's one thing. The take-home message here is ultimately the best defense against emergence of further variants of COVID is rapid global vaccination program. Global vaccination program, as she said, she asked for the 4th wave. Before that, we should go for a global vaccination campaign in concert with other public health measures to block the transmission. As it is said, a virus that cannot transmit and infect others has no chance to mutate. That is, it cannot. That means it cannot take another avatar.
Actually,
I will read again. A virus that cannot transmit and infect others has no chance to mutate. That is, it cannot take another avatar. That about the 4th wave, what you are talking about. So before that, you should make more. Global vaccination campaign has to be made very strong, so that they can combat the 4th wave or 5th wave. We don't know, maybe 9 avatar also may go. Cannot say. It may go for another decade also, according to some of the observers. This COVID is not going to be over now. It may last for another 1 decade also.
Oh.
From a pandemic, it may become an endemic disease.
Yes,
The
ma'am. It has
problem
already been
nowadays
pronounced.
is because some countries have totally locked down, like not allowed people to come from outside, like New Zealand, Hong Kong, and some parts of China. Now the new wave is starting. Some of them are having their first wave also. So the virus will from there may come out again. And in the process, as Dr. Swarna Kumari Madam said, if she takes a new avatar, we don't know if the avatar is less virulent and more transmissible, more people will get exposed, and then they will get a universal exposure.
The vaccination campaign has to be made more and more
It's
strong.
only weapon we have in our hands.
And we have already seen during the 2nd and 3rd wave how they have reacted. and the mortality has come down rapidly because people have been vaccinated by the time we got the third wave. And same thing will happen to the fourth wave. If you fully vaccinate the people, even if they get, the chances of mortality is very, very low, and ICU admissions are low, hospital admissions are low. We have already seen in the second and third wave after we started the vaccination campaigns.
One word of caution I wanted to tell is in this, after this COVID, it is affecting the middle-aged people, that is 40, 50-year-old. Post-COVID, we have had a spate of sudden deaths, which maybe it is due to procoagulable states which has been missed, or some myocarditis part of it. So, or a patient who's already had some coronary artery disease, mild form, which was not detected, and on top of that, so sudden deaths have been seen, very rare, but we have to keep that in mind. So anyone after COVID, if they feel that they are not up to the mark, something is wrong, they don't feel normal, I think it is better to go and have a proper thorough checkup and then make sure everything is fine. But it's not, again, as I said, we have to balance. We should not become very worried about it and anxious about it. We should take it in the right sense.
20% of the population is less than 15 years, and there's no vaccination for these children. So the government should fasten up the vaccination program and get the vaccines that are suitable for these kids and do more studies and start vaccinating. Otherwise, these will be the most vulnerable population, and they will be the niders for infection again. So that part of the thing is being neglected all over. That's what I feel.
Yeah, and what is the dosage they need for the youngsters less than 12 years? Has it been any consensus come for that?
That anyway, abroad and all those Moderna vaccines, Pfizer has been accepted, and then those they give in less than 5 to 12, one dose, and 10 to 12, 15, 12 to 15 another dose. And they have different doses that are all acceptable and then practiced. Actually, Bharat Biotech is IPV vaccination. It's an inactivated polio, based on the principles of inactivated polio vaccine. It's a very safe vaccine for children, and they're even looking for nasal administration of the particular vaccine. But unfortunately, I think once the COVID hullabulla has gone down, government is also not paying much attention to what needs to be done for these children. Not much focus is being put on.
It is, I think, the need of the hour, so that these children also will get.
They are the ones being neglected, and then that's very scary.
There's one more question, ma'am. Like, if a person is fully vaccinated, how is he or she again getting infected? So that is the question. So vaccine cannot stop the infection.
It's not, that's correct.
Vaccine can offer some protection.
Yeah.
So it will, yeah. So the disease appearance will be mild, the symptoms will be milder, there will be less hospitalization, and there will not be morbidity or mortality. But it cannot stop the infection. Like any other vaccine, COVID vaccine is effective, but it has got its own limitations. It's not 100% effective.
It will not prevent, totally it will not prevent in future. One should keep that in mind.
In the US, this third wave, actually, it has hit all the people who have not been vaccinated, who have not been
Yes, correct.
vaccinated as well. And they were hit, and those were between 30 and 50 years old were the ones who had the worst outcomes.
Yes, ma'am. In these studies also, they say that most of them who are hospitalized are unvaccinated people.
Yeah, most of deaths were unvaccinated. Yeah.
Unvaccinated and not taking care about the coronary precautions.
Precautions, yes.
Not wearing the mask at all, wearing the mask to the chin and wearing the mask somewhere else. And some of the good effects of this COVID-19 I like to mention. One is it has improved the personal hygiene of the patient by washing and washing and washing. Another thing is it has given rest. So some of the illnesses have been improved. Third one is, of course, family bonding has increased. The fourth one is we have prevented a lot of road accidents.
Now, fifth is it has also increased the digital literacy. Digital literacy now.
Blessing in disguise, ma'am. Ma'am, blessing in disguise. As a leprosy.
Steps have been reduced.
Yeah, it has upgraded the people to digital.
Ma'am, it's a blessing in disguise, ma'am. Leprosy also cases have reduced because the droplet infection is the source of.
And one more few things I'll tell. The people who are before COVID and after COVID, they are not able to getting into their clothes. And one more couple, when they entered into their house before the lockdown, they couldn't come out of the entrance after the lockdown. And some of the women giving the instructions to the government, please continue the COVID vaccine, COVID lockdown, because husbands are still not able to do their chapatis in very rounded way. Still, some more training, kindly postpone lockdown. The request of some of the women to the government. Thank you so much.
One of them have asked, ma'am, good evening. It will be helpful if you could suggest some precautions in office premises. Thank you. One of the questions.
Thank you.
One of the
protection only,
question.
ma'am.
Huh?
Personal protection only, ma'am. Like mask, like social distancing and
Yes, ma'am.
sanitizer. These have to be continued, ma'am. Even if there is no
100%.
seriousness,
Turn
even
off
the
the
seriousness
ACs
is
and
reduced.
Turn off the
Personal
air
protection
conditions and
measures.
open the windows.
They have to be continued.
And
Once
compulsory
they are having food also, the alternate chairs have to be kept vacant and things like that.
Yes, ma'am. That social distancing has to be
Social
maintained.
distancing.
and compulsory vaccination before they attend the hospital, when to attend the office.
Mask, social distancing, and sanitization. That's it.
And compulsory
In the
vaccination.
West, they have the employees have to give it in writing to say that, when before that they are all fully vaccinated before they come to for the regular work. And those in the West, they had problems because some of them refused to take vaccine and that they were coming to the office. So this kind of behavior is not to be
Anyway,
encouraged.
Samasta Nari Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. Jai Hind.
Thank you, ma'am. So, thanks a lot for all of your time. And I would like to present, on behalf of the chamber, we would like to present a memento to the speakers of the day, memento, Dr. C. Swarna Kumari.
ఈ మొమెంట్ మీకు ఇక్కడే ఇచ్చేపండి.
This will be sent by email.
ఓకే.
And Dr. Kola Shashikala.
Took another 15 minutes more.
And then Dr. Venkata Lakshmi.
ఎక్కువ మంది క్వశ్చన్స్ అడగలేదు, బట్ ఐ థింక్ షీస్ గాట్ సమ్ క్వశ్చన్స్ విత్ హర్.
Dr. Nirmala Prabhavati.
Thank you, ma'am.
The chamber sincerely thanks all the speakers of the day for their excellent presentation, and it is definitely a useful session for all the women. And we are so happy to have this session so coinciding with the International Women's Day. Thanks to our president, because we were just talking about this program last week only, and then we thought that this will be an apt topic on an app today. So I thank all the participants also who have joined today in spite of their busy schedule. Thank you all.
We should thank Dr. Swarna Kumari for getting all the doctors on the panel.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Very interesting meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Asha ma'am.
Thank you, Sasigala. Thank you, Nirmala. Thank you, Venkat Lakshmi, for cooperating.
So
with
pleasure, ma'am.
Very short time. Very short
Of that time.
Very short time. Thanks a lot.
Thank
I
you.
must thank you, ma'am, for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Bye, Uma.
Teshi, ma'am, thank you.
You must come on live. Thank you so much.
Sorry for running in and out.
అయిపోయిందా, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Award function.
Good outlet. Nirmala check. Good outlet. Nirmala.
Huh?
అమ్మయ్య.